Ambassador Quellis of the Tarn Confederacy had negotiated diplomatic missions to 47 worlds, but nothing prepared him for his first visit to a human colony. The moment his shuttle entered Earth Alliance space near New Vancouver Station, his sensors lit up with targeting locks from no fewer than 37 separate weapon systems. "This is normal?" Quellis asked his human liaison, Dr. Sarah Chun, trying to keep the tremor from his voice. "Oh, that's just the outer perimeter," Sarah said cheerfully. "Don't worry, they know you're friendly. They're just tracking you as a precaution. 37 weapon systems seems excessive for tracking a diplomatic vessel." Sarah laughed. "Ambassador, those are just the ones your sensors can detect." The shuttle passed through 6 more defensive layers before reaching the station. At each checkpoint, Quellis observed automated gun platforms, missile batteries, directed energy weapons, and several systems his Tarn military advisors couldn't even identify. By the time they docked, his security detail was visibly unsettled. "Forgive me," Quellis said as they disembarked, "but this seems like extraordinary military preparation for a simple civilian colony station. Are you expecting an invasion?" "Not really," Sarah replied, guiding him through corridors where he noticed armed security personnel at every intersection. "This is just standard protection protocol. New Vancouver has a population of 80,000 civilians, so we maintain appropriate defensive measures." "Appropriate?" Quellis's translator struggled with his tone of disbelief. "Ambassador Chun, my homeworld's capital, which houses 3 billion Tarn and serves as our government center, has fewer weapon emplacements than this single colony station." Sarah stopped walking, genuinely puzzled. "But what if something goes wrong? What if there's an attack? Our treaty partners would assist us. We have mutual defense pacts. What if they can't arrive in time? What if communications are jammed? What if the threat is something unexpected?" Sarah's questions came rapid fire, and Quellis realized she wasn't being hypothetical. She was listing actual scenarios humans had planned for. The tour continued, and Quellis's confusion grew into something approaching existential dread. The station's civilian sectors had reinforced bulkheads capable of withstanding direct weapons fire. Every habitat module had independent life support, emergency supplies for 6 months, and evacuation protocols that could be executed in under 4 minutes. The medical bay was stocked for mass casualty events. The engineering section had backup systems for the backup systems. "This is a mining colony," Quellis finally said, standing in what Sarah called the secondary command center, a facility that could run the entire station if the primary center was destroyed. "You extract rare minerals and process them for shipment." "Why does a mining operation need military-grade redundancy?" Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing human colonial history. "Ambassador, humanity learned some hard lessons during our expansion into space. Let me show you why we build like this." The display showed colony after colony. Mars Dome 7, which survived 3 weeks after a meteor strike severed all external support. Titan Station, which held against pirate raiders for 18 days until reinforcements arrived. Proxima Colony, which evacuated 15,000 people through a backup system when the primary habitats catastrophically failed. "We learned that space is hostile," Sarah explained. "Equipment fails. Accidents happen. Sometimes there are attacks. And when you're millions of kilometers from help, you can't afford to have a single point of failure." "But the cost," Quellis protested. "The resources you dedicate to these redundancies could build 3 additional stations. Or save the 80,000 lives on this one," Sarah countered. "Ambassador, what's the acceptable loss rate for a preventable disaster?" "Well, the Tarn Actuarial Council determines optimal resource allocation based on statistical probability." "That's not what I asked. I asked what's acceptable. How many people should die because we decided saving them was too expensive?" Quellis had no answer. In Tarn philosophy, efficiency was paramount. Resources were allocated based on logical probability assessments. The idea of spending 3 times the necessary resources just for redundancy seemed almost irrational. That evening, Quellis attended a community gathering in the station's Central Park, an actual park, with real trees and grass, maintained in a space colony because humans needed green spaces for psychological health. He watched children play while their parents relaxed, seemingly unconcerned that they lived in a tin can floating in a hostile vacuum. Then the alarm sounded. It wasn't a drill. A cargo hauler had suffered a containment failure, leaking toxic propellant into 2 habitat sectors. Quellis watched in amazement as the human protocols activated with mechanical precision. Affected sectors sealed automatically. Emergency teams deployed in under 90 seconds. Backup life support engaged. Medical teams prepared triage centers. And within 4 minutes, every single resident of the affected areas had been evacuated to safe zones. Not a single casualty. Not even a single injury. "This is what you do with all those redundancies," Quellis said to Sarah, who'd remained calm throughout the entire emergency. "You make disasters survivable." "We make disasters into inconveniences," Sarah corrected. "That's the point. We can't prevent every possible problem, but we can make sure that when things go wrong, people live." Quellis filed his report to the Tarn Confederacy upon returning home. He recommended a complete overhaul of their colonial safety standards based on human protocols. The Actuarial Council rejected it as economically inefficient, right up until the accident at Tarn Station Sigma, where a simple coolant leak killed 800 colonists because there were no redundant systems, no backup protocols, and no emergency response teams. The humans had offered to share their protection protocols with any species that wanted them. The Tarn had declined, citing cost efficiency. 3 months later, they formally requested the full human safety manual and began implementing every single, excessive, measure. Other species learned the same lesson, some faster than others. The galaxy eventually adopted a new term for the human approach to safety: protective overkill. Humans took it as a compliment. Because in a universe that was actively trying to kill you, there was no such thing as too much preparation. There was only being alive, or being a cautionary tale. The humans preferred being alive.